Hello, this is David Baumblatt from Terabint Leadership. Today, we are going to be talking about the racial dynamics of Asian women and white men. Of course, there's going to be a lot of similarities with other racial groups, but in terms of leadership and what I've been talking about since day one about government corruption, what the hell does a topic of Asian girls and white men have to do with the bigger leadership picture of collapse, revolution, civil war? Well, one of the issues, and I've said many times, one of the issues that's a leg, you could say, on the stool that is pushing America to collapse is a racial category. I've said many times feminism, we have issues with feminism, which this relates a little bit to feminism. I talked about immigrants, which this also relates to immigrants. But what did I say? Racial. So one of the things I want to tie that into the racial thing is I've said one of the differences that I believe MAGA and nationalists are not the same, for the same reason that MAGA people will look at liberals as insane, that they don't understand that there's gender, that gender is real, that there's a man and a woman. They look at them like retarded, insane, and I get that, I agree. The same reason we nationalists look at MAGA as, for lack of a better word, retarded, when MAGA, and we're talking about whatever the official MAGA stance is, and that race isn't real, race doesn't matter, it's just the color of our skin. How do you deal with someone like that? Like literally, so if you're MAGA and you're hanging around people that say gender doesn't exist, what do you do with people like that? You probably just walk away, because in your mind, and you're correct, you look at these people as ignorant is a very minor statement. I mean, they're borderline retarded. Of course, gender's real. That's how I look at MAGA people. So if I talk to someone and they're like, it's just the color of our skin, man, we're all human beings, we're all the same, I have a good life. And then I would ask them, because it's usually a white person, it's like, have you ever lived as a racial minority? And the answer is probably no. So the part is race is real. So obviously one of the issues, so we're going to be talking about two issues. Obviously there's a sexual dynamic of men and women. You could say some feminism. And then we're also going to be talking about racial categories. We're going to focus mostly on Asian women and white men, but I could go down the line. And so one of the things is let me just point out a couple things that I've seen in terms of the Twitter feeds and whatnot. And this relates to a little bit, we're going to get into the subject, but this relates to a little bit of the issues that particularly white men, I mean, my audience is generally white men, that white men are facing in America. And that is, a lot of these white women just don't find these white men attractive. Let me just bring this up here quick. So this is just today on Twitter. And as you can see, I was just doing a comment. I'll show you my comment. And the person says, calm down, Karen. So this person, Claw, I'm going to assume he is a white male American. And one of the things I've seen that a lot of American men have gotten weak is they become very passive aggressive. So I've responded to Claw, and this happens all the time. That's why I'm pointing it out. So he blocks me. And what you'll find is a lot of these American white men, they have this very femininity, this passive aggressive. And so I, in some ways, defend American women why they don't find American men attractive anymore. This is one of the reasons, but there's very passive aggressive, and it gets into the topic we're going to go into. But the issue that I came up with today that I'd like to show you is, this was the topic. And again, we're going to get to the topic really quick. But one of the things is you're seeing Melania Trump coming out with her money. And I mentioned this, hopefully you could read this, Donald Trump, but I'm a supporter of Donald Trump just because I don't see any other political candidate that is possibly better than him. But I've also said I don't really support any political candidates anymore. It's not going to work. But anyway, what's happening with Donald Trump and this Epstein file, this should be front and center. Unless Melania Trump, with her supposedly $8 million so far, is going to donate all that money to charity, yeah, I mean, to see these rich people get more money, not for me. So this was the comment that I brought up. So now I want to just do the final thing, and then we'll get to the Asian thing, and that is, this is a girl named Michelle. I don't know how I follow her. She doesn't follow me. And that is, Michelle's one of these women, Asian women, who lives in London. This goes to my story. I believe she, let's click on it. I think she, one second here. Yeah, so she says she lives in England and she's saying China's not your enemy. And don't get me wrong, I don't know if this is her right here. Maybe it is. Next president of China, I doubt it. But anyway, this is a type of woman, and I agree with her on many points. But guess what? I've said many times, I think you could see what I wrote on her right here. Let me think. I said, Michelle, you're pathetic. So obviously, this was a negative. I've said positive things about Michelle, but the point being is here's another Asian woman who lives in the West, who she got her lottery ticket because again, and hopefully you read that. So let me go to the point that I'm about to make, and that is, generally speaking, how I view Asian women is they they have three major wishes. They want a white passport, they want white men, and they want a white children. So first, let me talk to you. What is my Asian experience? And we're going to go into this. First of all, is I've lived in China now since 2010. That's a long time. I speak fluent Mandarin Chinese, reading and writing. I mean, my fluency is easily business fluency or up. I've been to every single province in China except Tibet. Tibet, you need a special visa. So even like Xinjiang, the Uyghurs, Inner Mongolia. I lived in Taiwan, obviously Hong Kong. I also spent time in Southeast Asia. So the one thing that I do want to point is I'm going to focus my experience on Chinese women. However, I've had many experiences with other Asian women. It's basically almost the same. There's not that much difference. I'll do videos. If you're like, what about Japanese? What about Thai? It's generally the same. One of the things, and we're going to do some videos, is I didn't go to Asia for the women. And there's these passport bros. There's nothing wrong with them, but I've always been into white women. I've always found personally, I think white women, particularly blonde hair, blue-eyed women, it doesn't have to be, but I've always viewed white women as what I consider to be the most beautiful women. I think generally speaking, a lot of white men are with Asian women. I'd say about 90% of the time is they cannot get beautiful white women. They might be able to get an ugly white woman, but they usually can't get beautiful white woman, so they settle for an Asian woman. And when I say settle, you're going down. And just like Asian women go up. So the first thing is, let's get the cat out of the bag. Is the Oxford study true? Absolutely, it's true. I mean, you go in Asia, people many times assume that Asian women are into white men just to get the passport or for money. No, absolutely not. I'm going to give you an example of me. And again, I never had any problems dating women in the West. My ex-wife, 6 feet tall, blonde hair, blue-eyed, she was a model. Again, I was always into white women. I didn't move to China. I moved to China for other reasons. And again, I did. I enjoy studying Chinese. I studied Taoism. I studied Chinese medicine. I also believe China, and it still is a very strategic country. But I didn't move there for the Asian women. It's a nice side benefit. There's no doubt. But again, personally, just so you know, I make it down, is I believe the most beautiful women for me, my preference, it's white women. It's always has. So anyway, in Asia, just to give you an example of how the status there is because when you leave the West, and part of the reason I'm doing this video is I believe that white men have become weaker and weaker and weaker. Part of it is indoctrination. And you're being indoctrinated. We're talking from the globalist corporations, from liberalism, from communism, from so many angles. One of the angles is racism, which I've said America is the least racist country on earth. Same thing with feminism. America is a feminist country. It's not the patriarchy. So part of this is to empower white men and to realize that a lot of times you're being lied to. So the number one thing that I'm telling you a lie is Asian women are chasing white men. White men are not really chasing Asian women. I mean, I'm definitely chasing white women because I think if a white woman, especially a very beautiful white woman, they're difficult to get. There's no doubt about it. But I mean, there's a saying we say in China, and it's basically two. And so whatever your status, like ranking, I know it sounds corny, but you know how people are sort of ranked 1 to 10. You've said that before. Wow, she's a 5, she's a 6. Or think about a guy. He's like, well, if you were a 5 in America, you're a 10 in China. That's just the way it works. Now, I'm not doing this. This is the Asian women. I'm going to give you an example. How many times have I gone out to dinner with an Asian woman and I paid for the meal? Zero, zero times. The Asian woman will always pay for the meal. And why is that? Because I'm white and she's Asian. And some people would be like, well, the first thing is some people would look at this and say, God, that's racist. Take that word racism out of your vocabulary because there is so much racism in the non-Western world that it just sounds so ignorant now when we talk about racism in America. I mean, you just got to get this through your skull, and that is America is the least racist country in the world. So these racial terms, if they make you feel uncomfortable, as a white man, you need to get educated. It is what it is. But we, as the laws of nature, live in a racialized society, a racialized world. And in the West, they try to lie to us and they say it's not racial. It is. It's very racial. The one thing else I want to say is if you're in Asia, it also depends on if you're a white man or you're another man. Meaning, if you're an Indian man, if you're a black man, if you're whether, then your entire experience in Asia is not only going to be different, it's probably not going to be very pleasant. Asian women, they generally are looking in three different categories. General. Now, when I make these generalities of stereotypes, you've all heard the term, don't say that. Not every Asian woman, not every black man, not every, I never said every, I'm just saying 99.9%. That's generally how it is. Asian women, generally, their first choice is a white man. It's a white man. Their second choice is an Asian man. And their third choice, and when I say third choice, I don't even think it's a choice, is someone else. I mean, they would rather be single. And that's very different than white women. Again, everyone knows me. I consider myself an ethno-nationalist, and I view white women as probably the whores of the world. Again, just like I defended white women for not finding white men attractive because they become weak, well, white women have also become very unattractive, partly because they're so promiscuous, just sleeping with everyone. It's very disgusting. Asian women are different. Asian women, if you want to use the word, what is it called, race traitor? If you want to use the word race traitor, when it comes to white men, absolutely. Except for white men, it's rare. It is rare. And again, I say this because as being fluent in Chinese, I've had so many conversations with Asian women. But generally speaking, they don't find black men, Arab men, Indian men attractive at all, for status, attraction, whatever. So it's really they want a white man or they'll go with an Asian man. I'm going to just give you an example. I have so many stories. We're going to watch some videos here. And the reason why we're going to watch some videos is these are Western videos, and a lot of it is just retarded. But let me just give a story. If anyone's got any questions, put on it. But I went to a business school in Switzerland, and one of my classmates told me this story. There was a Chinese girl in our class. I mean, I was in Switzerland. I'm like, I'm going to get a nice blonde-haired, blue-eyed Swiss woman. That was my focus. But you do get a lot of these white guys that they do have an Asian fetish, and I get it in terms of sex. I can talk a lot to you about sexual experiences, what Asian women want, this and that. But anyway, true story. One of our classmates was from China, was from Shanghai, and she was about 30 years old, and her parents had been pressuring her to get married, to find a nice Chinese man. And they realized, though, when you're 30 years old in China, you're screwed. I mean, you're not going to get it. And she didn't want. She kept saying, I don't want Asian men. I want white men. Don't see any surprise. Finally, your parents, make a long story short, they said, fine. Because she told my friend, they were at business school together. Her parents made it official. They said, we are now giving you permission to get a foreign man. This is from her mom and dad, but it only can be a white man. Which, of course, she's like, don't worry about it. I only want white men. She ended up marrying my classmate, and good for them. Here's something else I want to say, too. People always use the word white supremacist, and there's many levels. I'm actually okay for people to have relationships with people outside your race. I didn't say what type of relationships, but I think it's good. We live in a big world. Just like I went to China, if you want to go to Africa and study the African language, the African culture, go to India, I think it's great. That's how we become educated. What I do believe is a major problem though is having mixed children. You could do it. I mean, it's your own freedom. I mean, Jesus, I probably have over 100 mixed kids by now if I had that. I mean, that's the demand of Asian women to have mixed kids with white men. And I say this so you know the philosophy, and that is you've heard this saying about, well, you're an adult and two adults can do what they want to do. I get that. But when you bring kids into this world, then you're affecting your society, your country, your people, particularly with a passport. I'm going to give you an example. And these two examples I would look less on. If a woman, a white woman said, hey, I want to be with a black man and I want to have mixed kids, I'm not a fan of it. But what if she said, I'm going to move to Africa and those mixed children are not going to be American citizenships? I found a Nigerian man and those kids are going to live in Africa and they're going to be Nigerian citizens. It's never going to happen. You know that. The black man's going to leave them. Then we got two mixed kids, and the white man's got to deal with it. I mean, that's 99% of all the situations. But if she wanted to go to Asia, or not go to Asia, go to Africa, and then the mixed kids have African because she wants black men. You're into black men, you're into Africa, then go for it. It's the same thing with a white man. If you wanted an Asian woman and say, I'm going to have mixed kids, and they're going to have an Asian passport and live in Asia, I might think about differently. But 9 times out of 10, these mixed kids, and I have a lot of experience with mixed Asian kids. 9 times out of 10, it's a white father and an Asian mother that they have a Western passport, the mixed kids, and they're the worst. I mean, I'll do stories on mixed. I get along much better, you could say, with pure Asians, because at least a pure Asian will say, I'm Chinese, I'm Korean, I'm Japanese, you get what I mean, and I'm white. Whereas the mix, they always want to say, I'm white, no, you're not white. And it's so many problems. And then our society has to deal with it. So I want to make it known right now that if you want to have relationships, and here's one story that comes to my mind. I have a military buddy. He was married a nice white woman in America. They had 2 kids. She divorced him and she wrecked him, which is, again, this is the feminism in America that's wrecking white men. He divorced her. He moved to Asia. And he's like, listen, David, I don't want to have kids anymore. I already got 2 kids who are in college. I just want to find a woman who treats me with respect, submissive, does what I want. You get the sort of a little bit, not necessarily a man's fantasy, but a man's reasonable desires. He ended up getting an Asian woman, and he's very happy. And I agree with that. So if you take the mixed children out of the equation, I would say, even as a nationalist, I'm pretty liberal on it. But I've always said I don't believe in the non-whites, like Asian, Chinese people, being allowed to become citizens in our country. But there's nothing wrong having a friendship, whether it's platonic friendship or even have a sex. But I want people to know that once you have mixed children, those children don't just affect you as a mother and father, they affect society. So not really into that. So let me go some other videos. But one of the things that really hit me, the story that I learned, is when I first got to Asia, just so you know, you've heard the term male escort. Oh, that's very familiar. The Chinese term is called yazi. Yeah, I was a male escort for years and years. And you might think, how the hell did that happen? Didn't happen out of that I purposely did it. What happened was I first went to China. I was studying Chinese. And when you look at the term male escort, I do want to emphasize escort number 1, sex number 2. And what do I mean by that? What started out was I was getting offers from friends of friends to say, listen, these Chinese women. Now, most Chinese people, for lack of a better word, I'm going to say low income or even poor. But there are a lot of groups of Chinese that are filthy rich, that make an American look very poor. Whether it's in Beijing or Shanghai or Hong Kong, I mean, there are filthy rich Asian women. But I agree that China in general, I would say, is at a lower economic status, especially when you go to the poor regions in the West. But there are a lot of rich Chinese women, and they want a white man. Number one is for status. This is the escort. So I remember I was studying Chinese. I first went to China on a student visa studying Chinese, and I got offers or requests saying, hey, listen, David, are you free next weekend? I'm like, yeah, I'm free. Would you mind accompanying this Chinese woman to an event? They really want to have a tall white guy, and you speak Chinese, and it's going to be purely an escort. And of course, there's money exchange, and that's how it is. Now, was there sex involved? Yeah, there gets sex involved, but that's kind of a secondary thing. The point being is you are a status symbol in Asia, 100%. And at first, I felt kind of uncomfortable with it because I thought, we're all equal. Remember the American thing? We're all equal. No, we're not. This is another reason that it's very difficult for me to go back to America, because once you live in non-Western worlds and you realize the status, and it's a status that it's hard to go back in America and drink the Kool-Aid and say, we're all equal. I mean, I don't have videos on it here now, but like in America, you have Chinese women, like even the mayor of Boston, that are your politicians. That is just so weird. I mean, I can't even understand that. But in Asia, now I could do stories of friends in Africa. I mean, it's generally the same all throughout the non-Western world. And that is the number one sought out people, women and men, are white people. And the more blonde hair, blue eye, tall you are in both categories, the higher the status everywhere. You go to India, you go to Africa, whether you look at black men chasing white women, black women chasing white men, it's the same thing. So in Asia, the status of white people, it just is what it is. And it's not me. I mean, I didn't go to Asia and say, I'm a white man and you have to worship me. That wasn't my thing at all. But you are going to see. So we're going to go to some videos, but this thing called the Oxford study about Asian women wanting white men. I mean, I'm to the point of, do you even need, I mean, you don't see it by now. Of course, it's easier for me because I'm living in Asia. Oh, it's obvious. And what I want to do is, before we go to these videos, make it known that Asian women in the West don't like men like me at all. They don't like men like me at all. And why is that? I've heard them say many times. They prefer to meet white men who have no clue about Asia at all. No clue. Don't speak the language, have never been to Asia at all. Because the white man in the West who has no experience will look upon Asian women more as a novelty, more like wow per se. But once you're a white man and you've lived in Asia, it's not that I look upon them negatively. But I look upon them, hey, just like in India, there is the class system. I can't help it. It's a class system. And I will look upon an Asian woman and say, you are lower level than I am. Now, I'm not going to say that purposely. It just is what it is. And if an Asian woman says, go screw yourself, no, you're not, then get an Asian man. And they won't. They just won't. It just is what it is. Or if you look at a guy like me, say, well, if you think we're low level, then why don't you get a white woman? I do. Or I will fail trying. It is what it is. I'll do some more stories as we go in there. But once you live in Asia and see it, and this is not negative about it, because when you get a guy like me, I did a master's degree in Chinese studies from the University of San Francisco. I become fluent in the Chinese language and live there. That's a form of respect. Again, I've studied a lot on Taoism, studied a lot on Confucianism, Chinese medicine, Chinese Kung Fu. So there's a lot of respect that I give Asia. But at the same time, we have to call a spade a spade. But in terms of who's chasing whose status, absolutely. The Asian woman is chasing the white man. 90% of the time, a white man is with an Asian woman. Now, I'm not saying if you're with an Asian woman as a side chick, as your mistress. That's a little different story. But if you're a white man and you chose an Asian woman as your number one woman to have children and everything, it's usually because you can't get a beautiful white woman. It's usually about 10% of white men can get a high status white woman, but they prefer an Asian woman. So there's always anomalies, but I would say about 90% of white men choose an Asian woman as their primary partner because they can't get a white woman. Now, before we go to the videos, I do want to give Asian women, and I have many stories, sexual stories in it, but I do want to give Asian women a one credit, and that is to the white women in America. And I speak very negatively about white men. I think white men are cocks. And I agree, as a white woman, if you don't find white men physically attractive, I get it. I totally agree with you. But feminism in the West has also made you white women very unattractive. This sort of feminism, this argumentative nature, this nagging, I mean, you could go on and on. But Asian women, their submissiveness, sort of looking up to white men, it's the natural order. So I've been with some very beautiful white women, but man, they are just a pain in the ass. And it's not attractive. This sort of this competitive, this girl boss, it's very unattractive. That in Asia, I have to admit, is very naturally attractive. However, the DNA of a white woman, especially having children, no way. That's my number one. I have no interest in having children with an Asian woman. It's just my personal opinion. Let's go on some videos and we're going to sort of unwrap them. And again, if anyone has any questions, go ahead. But the goal of this is what's destroying the white man in the West is a lot of times lies and untruths about many topics, about race, about feminism. And one of them is this truth, and that's what I'm saying again, and that is this theory about, the white man and Asian women or whatnot. It's Asian women chasing white men. Trust me, an Asian women, generally speaking, their wish is to have a white man, a white passport, and white kids. Those three things are huge. Let's share some videos and we could talk more.
Excuse me, is it true that you people only like white men?
What the hell? What do you mean, you people?
Asian girls.
No, that's a disgusting stereotype.
There was literally an Oxford study that proves that Asian women love white men. It's science.
No, that study was about something completely different.
You read studies? I'm not buying that. You're a woman.
I may be a woman, but I'm also an Asian. So I'm smart. That study wasn't even about real-life interracial relationships. It was about media depictions of how they can perpetuate stereotypes that Asian women are submissive and hypersexual, which isn't.
That's how I found. I found Asian women all the time very submissive and hypersexual. That's my experience.
Not even necessarily true.
Yeah, I didn't listen to any of that. Do you like white men or not?
Well, I do, but that's just a coincidence.
Want to come back to my place?
It's not a coincidence. It's about 99% of Asian women.
So let me colonize you.
It's kind of funny. Okay.
Yeah, so these things are so common in terms of the Asian woman. And here, let's get the cat out of the bag too, because if we're going to learn leadership, we have to have these uncomfortable conversations. And I don't say this, it's sad, but even in the world that we live in, we do live in a hierarchical world. Hopefully we live in a world where you have opportunity to move up and down, but sometimes you're granted. I mean, think about a beautiful woman. She's going to have advantages in this world that an ugly woman doesn't. What are we going to do about it? It's just the way it is. I mean, we all know it. A beautiful woman is going to get opportunities. Look at a man. I'm 6'5". Has that given me advantages in life? I have to admit it does. What should I do about it? I mean, I don't know. What do you want me to do? Meaning, so we do have to agree that life isn't fair. Hopefully we have freedom in this world that, you could try to move up and down as best you can, but we have to admit. So what am I saying? I didn't say this, but this is just life. If you look at the most attractive people in this world, and I've already said this, it's white men and white women. I didn't go to Asia and saying, Asian women, you must prefer white men as your number one. I never said that, but they do. Same thing in the world, whether it's white women or white men. We are the most desired in the world. I know that's going to anger a lot of people. That's going to make people jealous. It just is what it is. And if you don't like it, meaning if you're black, if you're Asian, if you're Indian, well, then you change it. Stop chasing white men and white women. That would be my best theory, my best suggestion. But there's a flip side, and this is going to sound very rude. Who are the least attractive people, just based on consensus in the world? it would be Asian men and Black women. Just is what it is, and there's other videos. So the part of in Asia is not only are you dealing with a dynamic where Asian women prefer white men, but Asian women, similar to how Black men look at Black women. I'll tell you stories of my time with Black men in the military. Most of the time, they look upon Black women as unattractive. Show me a Black man who prefers Black women over a beautiful white woman. That's an anomaly. Very similar. I mean, the stories that I hear from Asian women, how they talk negatively about Asian men, that's they're saying it, not me. So again, is the world unfair? It just is what it is. But Asian men in general and Black women in general are the least attractive people. And I've said many times to Asian women, I've said, especially when it is to making children, I've said, you should respect your Asian father. You should find a nice Asian man and have children with. Good luck. It's the same thing if you look at a Black man and say, hey, Black man, you should respect your Black mother and find a nice Black woman to have kids with. Yeah, right. You throw a beautiful white woman in there, he's gonna disrespect his Black mother and have mixed kids with the white women. So it is what it is, white men and white women. Now, if you look at white men and white women, the more you are to blonde hair, blue eyes, I mean, the Asian women, and again, I focus a lot on Asian women, but I've heard it's very similar when Africa and India, but Asian women particularly have a fetish for men that are closer to the Aryan race. I mean, this whole Adolf Hitler, Nazis, blonde hair, blue eyed is an absolute fetish to Asian women. So the closer you are to that, which is also true with men. I mean, you don't think men, there's a fetish more toward blonde hair, blue eye. Look at the modeling agency industry. So the closer you are to blonde hair, blue eyed, tall white man, the more they're into that. It just is what it is. But what I want to do is, like I said, when these Asian women look upon it's colonization or it's pressure from the media, I haven't seen anything. I mean, I've been to very, you could say, small country towns in China, and of course I've lived in Shanghai and Beijing and Hong Kong. It is almost universal, the desire of Asian women to be with white men. It's through the roof. Let me show you some other videos and then we'll talk about it. But I want to do is educate. Like I said, I get white men. I understand that white women through feminism, their attitudes are just horrendous. I get that. But then I'm telling them, figure out a way to have a child with a white woman and maybe don't even live with her. But I'm telling you, I've seen so many instances with the mixed Asian. That's where I have a lot of experience, where I've seen it. White man, Asian woman, mixed kids. I highly, highly do not recommend you going down that because it affects society. Try to find a white woman, maybe don't marry her and just have kids with her and figure out a way. But I have to admit, how Asian women treat me compared to how white women treat me, oh my God. I mean, the joke is in Asia, why can't white women have Asian culture? That would be the best of both worlds. I'm not going to say that's Eastern Europe. I don't have as much experience in Eastern Europe, but the white woman who has traditional values, because we don't have traditional values anymore. But how do Asian women treat white men? It's pretty good. I just personally don't want to have children with them because in some ways, I want to respect my family. I come from a white European background, and it's healthier for the children. It's healthier for society down the line. Let's talk with some more on these. And then again, if anyone's got any questions, I'll tell you some more stories in Asia. But let's do this right here.
Women disproportionately go for white guys.
Yeah, tall white guy, mediocre, but I'm not mediocre.
Yeah, like
You're a Trojan.
it's just like a stereotypical thing. It's not a real study. It's just.
So now you're getting an Asian guy who's in America. He's gonna bullshit you. Let me hear what he says, and I'll give you feedback. I'd like to know even if this guy could speak Chinese or an Asian language.
It's like a funny brain rot TikTok term that anytime people see like a hot Asian girl with like an unattractive white guy.
You can be an unattractive, fat white guy, and you go to Asia, and you're going to kill it. You're still going to do well.
Then the comments are like, Oxford study, of course he pulled her Asian. And it's just like some incel behavior. But
It's not incel behavior. I mean, I'm not an incel by all means, and I've said it. I prefer white women. I had no problem getting girls. Asian women go googa gaga for white guys. It just is what it is.
Do you notice that?
in Asia, it's far worse. Like there, it's like actually femcel behavior type shit.
Okay, so it sounds like he's admitting the truth. In Asia, it is, but it's also in the West, but probably Asia to a much higher degree. I agree with that.
They're like, I don't like Asian guys. They're just like too feminine. I only like white men.
In America, like you have just, you're American, he's American, you just
Yeah,
happen to
all
look
kind of the
different,
same.
right?
Yeah.
Well, this is communist. He's American. You're American. No, there's race in America. And even in America, even when I was in America, I would get so many more Asian women trying to flirt with me or black women versus white women, meaning even when I lived in America, it was so much easier for me to get a black woman, an Indian woman, an Asian woman versus a beautiful white woman. It was much more difficult.
They're the
Exactly.
same culture.
Right,
Over
right.
there, it's like a fetishization of white
different. I
people.
wonder if it's white people as a skin or just a different culture than what they're used to.
White people as a skin.
No, it's not. This guy's talking out of his asshole here. I'll explain.
Nah, they don't give a fuck about the culture, man. They're like tall, beard, blue eyes. They want
Yeah.
that shit, you know? Wow. Asian women.
Okay, so maybe I would agree with, but they like the whole thing. I mean, they love English, they love white, they love blue eyes, they like America, they like Hollywood. And the reason I know this is when you're in Asia and you're white, they will ask you what country you're from. And it is true that if you're from Eastern Europe, they will look at you as a lower status. If you're from the West, you're fine. There's not so much higher, like, well, I'm American, I'm British, I'm German, I'm Canadian. It doesn't seem to be that much status. They do have a thing for Germans, though, this whole Aryan thing, which goes into, I guess it doesn't matter what nationality. The more Aryan you look, the bigger deal. But if you're from Eastern Europe, I have noticed it like you're from an underdeveloped country. But if you're from a Western country, I haven't really noticed it with Asian women where there's, oh, he's French, he's American. Not really, but they really love the whole package. I cannot tell you how, again, there's a phrase, it's called 崇洋媚外, and it just means the flattery of Asian girls toward Western men. It's absolutely true. Let me do some other videos and I'll tell you some more stories. I see Shane here. Yup, I've always lived life on the easy mode. When it comes to women, life is simpler. Asian American is never touching it. Yeah, I mean, the part with Asian men is many times, and I've heard this too, Asian men get very jealous and angry of Asian women for two reasons. One may surprise you. One is they're pissed off because they're always chasing white men. It just is what it is. And I've said it. I went to Asia. I never planned to take an Asian woman away from the Asian man. Again, I don't want to have mixed kids. I've had sex. There's no doubt about it. But you know, I'm not going to take an Asian woman. They're your women and do what you want to do. But there is that jealousy of Asian women always chasing white guys. It is. The second, though, is, believe it or not, they're jealous of Asian women because they're like, it's not fair that you Asian women, these would be Asian guys saying this, are able to get white men, but we Asian men can't get white women. It's the same racism. Asian men are not into black women, Indian women, but if they can get a beautiful white woman, oh my God, Asian man without a doubt. It is a huge status symbol. When I was living in Beijing, I met a very rich Chinese man. Again, I've said many times, in China, a lot of the people you could say are poor or lower income than America. But there are segments that are filthy rich in China. And corruption, I get it. It's corrupt. Filthy rich. And this man basically bought a very beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eyed Ukrainian woman, because they know women in Eastern Europe are poor. And if you're flashing a lot of cash as an Asian man, you can buy an Eastern European woman. And he bought one. And it is a status symbol for this Chinese man. And he wants to have mixed children with this white woman. So don't fool yourself. A lot of these Asian men look at Asian women dating white men, and they're pissed off. They're like, you're always going after white men. Why can't you come to me? So there's a bit of an inferiority complex. But two, they're also jealous. Says, why can Asian women get white men, but I can't get white women? In weird sense, if you really want to understand the dynamics of the whole Asian white thing, it's very similar from an opposite faction of the black and the white thing, where it's the black man, where many times black women, see, the point is you don't see many Asian men and white women relationships, but you also don't see many black women and white man relationships. So what I don't want you to assume is Asian men don't find white women attractive. That's false. They absolutely find white women attractive. They just can't get them. The same thing, don't even assume that black women do not find white men attractive. Totally opposite. Black women absolutely want white men. The problem is a lot of white men just don't find black women attractive. But if you look at those dynamics, there's a lot of similarities. Let's go to the next one, the video, and we could explain more.
Study, who is insecure about it? Is it the Asian girl that dates white guys, or is it the nerdy Asian guy that's complaining about it on the internet? Obviously, this has been talked a lot.
I mean, there was a viral TikTok about it from this girl, and I guess the truth is they're both at fault in some ways, but in completely different ways. Because the girl might be flaunting her relationship with a white guy who she thinks is
an Asian girl will flaunt her relationship with a white man because it is a status symbol. Of course, in Asia, it is at a much higher level. I haven't been to America in a long time, so I'm trying to sort of remember it. I do believe in the West, it's still a status symbol for an Asian woman to be with a white man, but because of this woke culture, you shouldn't be racist, like all this sort of stuff, it might be hidden or diminished. But in Asia, it's absolutely. It is a status symbol for Asian women to be with a tall white man, without a doubt. That's why, like I said, I have never paid money to be with an Asian woman. They will pay me money. Why? Because it is a status symbol for me to be with them. If they don't agree, then get an Asian man, because I actually prefer a beautiful white woman.
A better group than Asian guys, right? But then also the guys that say Oxford study on all these girls' TikToks, that is showing some lack of agency or insecurity about their own ability to control their outcomes in life.
I'm not quite sure what he's getting at that. I'm not saying he's wrong. I don't understand what he's talking about, but I'm just saying the Oxford study is true, meaning Asian women have an overwhelming preference to go for white men. And I believe 90% of the time, if a white man is with an Asian woman, he's doing it as a second option. If you can give this white man a beautiful blonde hair, blue-eyed, tall model, he's probably going to take that white woman. But because he can't get her, he'll get an Asian girl. He might still be able to get a fat, ugly white woman, but he's like, nah, I'd rather have a hot Asian girl versus a fat, ugly white woman. I get that. But the Oxford study, end of story, and I don't even know what the Oxford study is altogether. I haven't reviewed it, but we understand the premise. I believe the premise, 100% true.
Well, we can talk about the Oxford study. It's been debunked quite a bit too, but there is still some truth into that. I'm not going to get into it, the whole debunk points, but there is some truth to it. And I feel like Asian guys nowadays, instead of feeling sorry for yourself, I feel like you should use that as motivation, even if it is true, to better yourself.
I think that.
All right, let me go to the next one here. We're going to look at this.
To take a screenshot of my husband, which is a good picture of him, by the way, and basically wanted to assume that the race I'm with somehow determined whether I love myself or not. The fact that the men in our culture are so insecure they feel the need to say these things makes me more sad than hurt when I see these comments. Like it's literally a trend, and I wanted to use it as a way to come out about my experience, how I've learned to love and appreciate myself as a person and not wanting to be anybody else. I literally started gaining confidence to start posting on my TikTok page. It's one of my first couple posts, so give me a break. I was already loving myself for who I was as a person, so when I met my husband,
Yeah, and like I said, let me get the cat out of the bag. You see how she looks. You see how Lee looks. So the amount of sex that I've had in Asia is through the roof. And there's no doubt about it. If I said sex with Asian women, 3 words: fun, fun, fun. I mean, I could go on to threesomes. I've had foursomes. I mean, I've been paid a lot of money to have sex, and I get it. Sex is a natural drive. It's good. And so I definitely can understand if a white man has an Asian girl as a mistress, but I'm just telling you, and there's many ways of looking at nationalism, this ideology and leadership, but I'm still telling you the bottom line that I'm really recommending not to go over is children, because I'm telling you, if you want to have sex with black women, if you want to do that, you could say you're an adult, she's an adult, and 2 adults doing consenting things. I get that. But once you bring children into the picture, you're affecting me. You're affecting other people in your country. You're affecting the citizenship, the benefits, the taxes, the future. It's a big deal. Now, it's a free world. I mean, unless there was a laws change, and you do what you want. But I'm just saying, from a leadership recommendation, my advice is, if you're going to find a woman, and I get marriage in the West is horrible. People, you get married today, you get divorced. But if you're looking at finding a partner, at least to make children, the closer your partner is to you in everything, in religion, even in something as simple as she's a vegan, right? She doesn't eat any meat. You like to eat meat. At the beginning, you might say that's not a big deal. Living together, it could be. She could start complaining, I hate to see you eat meat because you're hurting poor animals. And the point that I'm saying is, this is where diversity is technically not our strength in the long run. Try to find a woman, of course, when it comes to race, that is more like you than not. Because there's also a higher level of divorce with these international marriages, because we've all seen the news, the media, the woke media. They love to say have mixed kids, interracial this. It's awesome. No, there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of problems with it. So we can go into other leadership discussions about should you have sex? Because I get it. There's hardcore white nationalists that don't even believe having sex with someone of not your race. I get it. I'm not going to make that argument today. I'm not saying they're wrong. But my argument is, before we go to these other videos, is I do believe when it comes time to have children, and those children are not going to just affect you and her, they're going to affect the country and the society, because there's a passport and a citizenship. I highly do not recommend you having mixed children, because a lot of problems occur. And I could go into another video, because I'm very familiar with the mixed Asian white. There's identity. Who are they? Are they white? Are they Asian? I consider them Asian, but no, then they're pissed off. They know we're white. I'm an American. And it causes a lot of problems. But again, there's other people would say, hey, you shouldn't have sex and this with other races. I get it. I guess I'm more liberal than that. And we're men. If you're living in a foreign country, you do what you got to do. But I do emphasize this. The Asian women, oh my God, the chance of them having mixed kids with a white man, I mean, they will show it off. They want it. They view themselves as moving up in the hierarchy of DNA. I can say it. That's what they're saying. But if you're using their logic, that means your children move down on the DNA. That's their logic. So I would just recommend that when it's time to have children, I just don't recommend having mixed race children. I think there's a lot of problems and there's more harm than good. But if we take children out of the picture, I don't know. I'd say it depends. It depends what you want to do. I don't see a major problem in it. Obviously, I'm in China. I'm a man. We do our things. And yes, so I definitely had sex with Asian women, but having children, just not for me. I just think it's better, at least for my case. I would prefer to have children with a white woman. Let's go here and let's another video.
male, Asian female is improbably the most common interracial couple. They are a quarter of all interracial marriages, despite Asian women being only 8% of married women. They almost outnumber Asian male, white male, black male, white male, Asian female couples are statistically weird. White.
So that's true. I mean, if you look at the number one mixed marriage in America, it is white male and Asian female. And I'm telling you, this is let me tell you how Asia changed my mind. This is a story when I was in the FBI. It actually relates to this story. When I was in the FBI, when you're a probationary agent, so just again, why I didn't get fired, I was off probation. I made it through probation fine. I did everything fine. But when you're a probationary agent in the FBI, they want you sometimes to work on cases that are outside your target just to give you more experience. And a lot of times other case agents, they need bodies. And because you're the new guy on the block, you'll get pulled. Like, hey, there's an arrest here. We need a body. And your supervisor would say, all right, you're the new guy. You're on probation. Go to the drug squad for a week or a day. They need you. They need help. And so you're that type of person. You're the free labor because you're just in the FBI and they need free bodies. So I did the same thing. I got pulled on. So one of the cases I got pulled on for I think it was 2 or 3 weeks. They called it human trafficking, which sounds serious. And we're thinking about pedophilias. Now, back when I was in the FBI, I wasn't racially, I didn't have all this knowledge. And we were working a case on Asian prostitution. And these were Asian women that were being human trafficked to America to do prostitution. So they're the victims and we're protecting them and we're really getting on these pimps. And on paper, it sounds justified. After living in Asia, I've totally changed my mind. Those Asian prostitutes hit the lotto. I know how it is. In Asia, they're like, listen, we're looking for massage girls, prostitutes to go to America. Who wants to go? I mean, these girls are just elbowing. I'll go. No, I'm not saying they want to go to Africa. They want to go to India. But a Western country like the UK, Canada, America, Germany, oh my God, these girls are fighting hand over teeth. They're like, I get to have sex with white guys. Hopefully I'll get pregnant by one of them. Maybe I get a citizenship to America and I get to fuck white guys. I mean, they're just like, it's weird because back then I remember how I was as a new agent. And now I'm thinking about it. Are you kidding me? This whole thing about human trafficking, like Asian, it makes it feel like these poor Asian girls. No way. I mean, and the remedy of it is don't let them in the country. I mean, I've said many times, I'm not into legal immigration, even though that would be considered illegal. But the point is, we would be looking upon these Asian women as the poor victims, right? No way. They'd be fighting. I know it. And there's so many scams of these. In fact, we'll do another video where it shows the scam of the Asian women going to America and getting pregnant, having kids in America. But these Asian prostitutes, an opportunity to go to the West, have sex with white men, possibly have mixed kids, maybe even get a passport. Oh, they're going to fight tooth and nail for that position. Tooth and nail. I don't view them as the victim. I view them as the lottery ticket winner. Totally lottery ticket winner. Let's go to another video. So for this one, this is about a black guy, and black guys, generally speaking, and I'll do stories on them, they generally prefer white women, number one, but they also really like Asian girls. The problem is Asian girls are not into black men, not into them at all, not even close. White women are much more liberal, open-minded, which I find disgusting, by the way, are much more liberally open-minded to have sex and mix kids with black men. Not Asian women, though. Except for white men. I've said this before. Asian women are really not into other men. They will then stick with an Asian man.
Thank you, bro. Yeah. Thank you, bro. Watch this. Watch this. Hey, watch this. Yo, how y'all doing? What's up with y'all? Yo, what's good?
English.
Hey. Oh, she's beautiful.
So again, it's just interesting because you don't find many black men in Asia. One of the reasons is this right here. They're just Asian women are just not generally attracted to black men.
Hello? You scared of me?
No.
You scared?
No.
It's just generally speaking, Asian women just don't find black men attractive. There's a status symbol with them. It just you could go down, but they're generally not attracted to black men.
How are y'all? What the fuck? Yo, how y'all doing? How y'all doing? How you doing? God damn it! Yo, how y'all doing? How y'all doing? How y'all doing?
Let's go to another one here.
Girl that guys are like lining up to date. I was never the girl that guys are like lining up to date. I didn't look like this blonde white girl, and that's what all the guys liked in my high school.
What's it like dating white men as an Asian woman?
It's tricky because
Generally speaking, she really wants to get a white man, but she knows that the top white men have white women. And she realized, because she's living in the West now, and she realized that if she wants to get a white man, she's going to have to lower her standards I should do, let me also do this on, I was going to talk about Mark Zuckerberg in Harvard with his chinky wife.
you're always like, am I an experiment? I have to be really mindful about like, am I really just chasing some sort of validation to kind of heal the
She's chasing validation because, again, it's a status symbol for Asian women to pull a white man.
this childhood wound of like not getting picked by them. I think the biggest question that always lurks in my head is like, are you open-minded enough that I can bring you home to my family in China and you'll be able to survive my crazy family and be open.
Think about it. Why doesn't she go back to China and find a nice Chinese man? Has that ever crossed your mind as the viewer? It's crossed her mind, and you know what she said? Fuck no. She wants a white Western man. That's her dream.
Into experiencing like a new culture. A lot of guys don't pass that test, and I think that's also
No, a lot of the guys will pass the test. They're just not interested.
why it's like I've been single.
Do you go out with Asian guys at all?
I have. Do you want me to tell the story because it's not a good one, and I don't want people to like not.
Trust me, I know her. She's not into Asian men. She's into white men. I mean, do we need to repeat this? The Oxford study is absolutely true.
Date Asian guys. He was Japanese, so we went to a sushi restaurant. He kind of like criticized how I was going about my life. And then we went to a sushi restaurant and I dipped my sushi in the soy sauce. And you're not really supposed to do that in Japan. Like, I think there's like a proper way to eat sushi. And he like criticized me on doing that. I was just like, I don't want to be with a guy that's constantly telling me how to live my life. But that didn't work out. And then the second guy, he was Korean. We went to a Korean place. He ordered for me. He didn't ask me what I wanted. Food was good, whatever.
Oh God, Gook! I would ship this Gook back to Gookland where she belongs. That's another thing. We're gonna end it with her. Also, when you're in Asia, Asia is not the home to feminism. Remember, feminism is something that the West has. That's why the West is not a patriarchy. It's run by feminism. Remember, women in the West, do you vote? Yes, you're a feminist. We live in a society in the West where women can vote. We live in a feminist society. The non-Western world's a patriarchy. So when I see these Asian women complain or whatever in the West, I would say, listen, shut your gook mouth. You hit the lotto. You're living in a white man's land. You can have sex with white men. You might even get lucky, have mixed kids. You might even have a white passport. You hit the lotto. Do you think I'm wrong? Then go back to Asia. Go back to Asia. They won't. They won't go back to Asia. Why? Now do you realize how I've changed my mind when I was an FBI agent, when I was thinking human trafficking? We have to save these Asian women that are being trafficked because these Asian women have to. Now, if these Asian women were getting forced to have sex with black men, then yeah, I guarantee they would be like, oh man, having sex with white men, these Asian women are going to do somersaults. They're going to be doing somersaults, how happy they are. Let's watch a couple more, and then I'll tell you a couple stories in Asia.
Asian American women's racial dating preferences based on actual psychological research rather than the so-called Oxford study. My name is Dr. Yi. I'm a psychology professor and I study Asian American racial issues. Let's break down the important
Oh God, do we really need this Asian woman here? Here she is in America. We have an Asian woman in America lecturing to white men about this stuff. This is also pathetic. White men will eat this up though. They will listen to her because white men have turned into cucks in America.
findings of this research article. Drawing from a sample of 207 Asian American adult women, and here's the ethnic breakdown if you're curious, the researchers found that number one, contrary to the Oxford study, on average, Asian American adult women reported the strongest desire to date Asian American men compared to other racial groups.
I don't believe it at all. I'm telling again, if this woman is so much into Asian men right here, why doesn't she go back to Asia?
Number two, internalized racism was a key predictor in dating preferences for Asian American women. I did a whole
I don't know what this thing called internalized racism is. The Asia is much more racist than America. So America is the least racist country in the world. So we still want to throw out these terms racism.
video on internalized racism and the measure this study used, which I'll link in the comments. But the more internalized racism that Asian American women had, the more likely they were to prefer dating a white man and less likely they were to.
Of course, I've had enough of this gook. Let's go to the last one and then you'll see what I'm talking about. And we're going to talk about this video right here.
We're wondering if you and your dog want to go on a date.
So I know everybody's going to be saying like, oh, Oxford study for all these WAMP couples. But what if I was to tell you that isn't even the weirdest part? Like race play is extremely common amongst these WAMP couples.
He's absolutely right on that. I'll talk about it.
Race play, you might ask, what's that? Well, it's when these couples, they might say things like gook and chink and the.
Oh yeah, gook and chink. So this guy sort of knows what it is, but notice this guy lives in the West. Why doesn't he want to live in Asia though? It's a good question. Why don't you go back to Asia? It's an interesting question. Why does he also white worship and live in the West?
The bedroom, do the entire me love you long time kind of fantasies. Like it's extremely common. But on top of that, they'll kind of like groom other Asian girls for white men. Obviously, this isn't all Asian women or interracial couples.
No, it's just about 90% plus.
But it's extremely common. And to all my Asian brothers out there seeing this.
All his Asian brothers. Most of your Asian brothers are in Asia. Why don't you want to go back to Asia? Because Asia is a shithole. And you're living in the West, which was built by the white man. You should be more respectful to the white man.
This might be, yeah, this is kind of upsetting, especially when you understand that the dating hierarchy is very racially based and not in their favor. But if you need some help, check me out. JT Tran, USA's #1 Asian dating coach.
So we're gonna talk about something. So again, if you're really looking at people that are hurting in the dating game, it's Black women and Asian men. Just is what it is. Like I said, I didn't go to Asia and say, you must worship white men, but they worship white men. And again, who do I worship? I mean, worship is a strong word, but I can definitely say preference. My preference, beautiful white women, without a doubt. It doesn't have to be blonde hair, blue eyed, but that would be nice. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about this stuff. Remember we said about gook and chink? Oh yeah. There's so many times where Asian women, they love to be dominated. So, for instance, I'm going to do two countries in a way, city countries, Hong Kong and Singapore. Hong Kong and Singapore, just so you know, were British colonies. So they were colonized by the Brits. And we have been indoctrinated in the West to believe that countries that were colonized hate the colonizer. Wrong, wrong, wrong. The people in Singapore, the people in Hong Kong, are so thankful that they were colonized by the Brits because they know that their society became so developed because of the British. Two, it's an even more status symbol to have mixed kids and be with a white man or whatever. It just is what it is. But if you think I, as a white man, went to Asia and demanded that Asian culture, Asian women must worship white men, you're crazy. I mean, that's the most ridiculous thing. You, when you go to another country, you do your best to fit in because you're a visitor. You're, as they say in China, a Lao Wai, a foreigner. So I just was like, let me fit in. And I learned their culture. Asian culture is generally white makes right. They absolutely love it. In the bedroom, to be sexually abused. I mean, we could go on and on. But what I do want to do from a standpoint, because I want to get this back from a leadership. If anyone's got any questions, I could tell you stories or whatever, but I don't want to take this channel down a pornographic avenue, even though we can, because like I said, these Asian girls love white guys. But how does this relate to leadership in the West? Well, like I said, I think one of the things we have to do, and I've said many times, the same reason that MAGA looks at gender as, well, no, MAGA does look at gender as real. It's the liberals. We've got to, as the nationalists, look at MAGA and say race is real. And I'm telling you, you can't, these mixed race societies, multiracial, they don't work. And that's what I keep saying. You can have a friendship, whether it's platonic, or I'm okay if you want to have sex with other people. But when it comes to have children, that's our society, that's our future. So no, I'm not a big believer in these mixed races or, multiracial. It doesn't work. And we have to have this talk. And the one thing I do want to talk about is usually these topics of Oxford study or what, it's always looked upon as the creepy white man pursuing these non-white women, and these non-white women are just innocent. It's the complete fucking opposite. It's absolutely the opposite. These non-white women, and in this segment is about Asian women, they have three dreams: a white man, a white passport, and white kids. Not all Asian women, just 99.9%. It's absolutely. And so the point being is when we talk about these racial things, it's always looked upon as the white man as the racist. Have you ever been to, this is the most racist society in the world. I'm not saying that Asia needs to change it. In fact, I think some positive things, that's how China has remained Chinese for thousands of years, because they're racist. And so that's a positive thing. But we do have to call a spade a spade. So this whole thing about Asian girls chasing white guys, the Oxford study, it's absolutely true. Again, if there's any stories, I think, there's not. I mean, I could do some stories, but I don't want to really go down a pornographic road. But I'm telling you, if you're a white man in Asia and you're having problems getting Asian women for sex or not, something is really wrong. It's really wrong, because I'm telling you, your status symbol is immediately doubled. Whatever status you were in the West as a white man, you come to Asia. Now, it's a little different. I'll just end it by this. I mean, generally speaking, if you're a white guy and you're really into Asian girls, generally speaking, this is coming from a person who focuses on China, I generally would say, first, try to go Japanese. And we're going to leave it here because, again, it's also about status symbols. So I'm going to give you an example. In Macau, this is located right next to Hong Kong. That's their version of Las Vegas. In fact, the amount of gambling that's going on in Macau has already exceeded Las Vegas. Anywhere, prostitution is legal in Macau. The most expensive prostitutes are the white women. They're usually Russian girls. Now, remember, the customers are Chinese. The number one customers that are going to Macau for gambling are mainland Chinese guys. So this is through the eyes of the Chinese men. The most expensive Asian girls for prostitutes are the Japanese. So again, I don't make the rules on status, but if you look upon it, you research, you'll find out who is the status. So if you're a white guy and you're into Asian girls, my first thought, and this is coming from a China expert, I would say get a nice Japanese girl. Generally speaking, I mean, sure, there's stuff about what about a Thai girl? I get it. But generally speaking, the highest status Asians are the Japanese. And I agree, it's a phenomenal culture. The only reason I'm not living in Japan is I don't speak Japanese and I focus on China. But I know a lot of white dudes, and they've went with Japanese girls, and I admit, the Japanese women are, generally speaking, the creme de la creme of Asia. We could get into other Asian girls. Even China's big, and I can dissect where are the top Asian Chinese girls. Obviously, they're Singaporean Chinese, Hong Kong Chinese, and that changes it a little bit. But generally speaking, we'll just leave it at this. If you're a white guy and you're into Asian girls, my first recommendation is go Japanese. But I would say is, from a leadership standpoint, I highly recommend not having mixed kids. You do what you got to do with your life, but those children affect society. They will affect others in the country, the passport, the citizenship, and all this stuff about mixing it up, the spice of life. It creates more tension, higher divorce rates, more trouble for the children, identity issue. There are so many negativities that mainstream media is not telling you. But if you would just want to have sex with an Asian girl, well, it shouldn't be that difficult. Now, I'm not saying you're going to get a top-notch Japanese women. Again, they're the top-notch. But geez, especially you go to Southeast Asia, I just cannot imagine a white guy having problems in general getting Asian women. Why? Going back to the subject of this video, the Oxford study, Asian women chasing white men. I mean, did you even have to have a guy like me telling you? You should know this already. It's absolutely true, without a doubt. And until white men start understanding these racial issues, I think it's going to get worse in America. So remember, what are we fighting for? Three things: Christian faith, freedom of speech, and what was the other one? European family. European family. And when I see these mixed kids, they ain't white. Sure, their dad is white. I get it, but I don't want to change the subject with these other mixed people, but they ain't European. And so the part is, who are they? It's trouble. And so you're really doing a disservice to the child. The child doesn't have an identity. You're doing it for us. And then I think you get my point. So again, if you want to have a nice friendship with Asian women, go for it. Learn the culture. I've learned a lot. I'm telling you, China has radically changed my life. I cannot tell you how China has changed my life. So in terms of a friendship, go for it. You want to go to Africa? You want to be friends with Black people? Awesome, go for it. But be careful. I just think having mixed children overall, it's going to be bad for you, bad for the child, and also bad for the society, the country, the Western country. Thank you for your time. I appreciate David Baumblatt from Terabinth Leadership telling the Patriots, lead to victory.